From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back to Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. And of course, joining me this evening is Emmanuel Michael. Michael, good evening to you and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Good evening and good evening to our viewers out there.
All right, let's quickly move on as we take a look at the latest, coming from wrestling at this hour, because it promises to be an exciting one in Bayelsa, as over 800 athletes and 200 officials are to take part in the third edition of Governor Dewey National Wrestling Classic, bid for November 3rd to 10th, 2024. The National Wrestling Classic, organized by the Nigerian Wrestling Federation in collaboration with the Bayelsa State government, is aimed at boosting the morals of Nigerian wrestlers after the 2024 Olympics in Paris, France. Speaking with journalists at the Southern Siasia Sports Complex in Yenegua, Bayelsa State's capital, yesterday, the president of Nigerian Wrestling Federation, Dr. Danny Gali, said the third Governor Dewey National Wrestling Classic, tagged Preparing Champions for the Future, has already received interest from 25 states in the country to participate. Gali, former Olympics and Commonwealth gold medalist, stated that Bayelsa State is without a doubt one of the most successful states in wrestling in the country. Michael, what do you make of the third edition of the Governor Dewey Wrestling Championship? I tell you, it's been a very massive one. I think with the help of Danny Gali, we've seen massive developments of wrestling down there in Bayelsa State.
Yes, of course, you can't talk about wrestling right here in Nigeria without also mentioning the state, Bayelsa State, because when it has to do with wrestling, I think they are the best in the country as it is right now. I'm talking about Bayelsa State. And of course, the reason is very simple, because they have Daniel Gali, a man who have seen it all. When you talk about wrestling, he's been able to bring medals, he's been able to bring honor for the country out there. And with his wealth of experience, now he delved into administrative position after his retirement from active wrestling. And you expect such a man that have garnered such a massive experience, to be doing pretty well. And that is why it is not surprising for me that Daniel Gali is doing pretty well, and especially for Bayelsa State, because they have somebody who truly understands the workings of what it takes to also develop that area. And that is why we keep talking about putting square peg in a square hole. You are seeing the difference, the tangible results out there. Because when you talk about wrestling in the country right now, you cannot do without talking about Bayelsa State. Why? Because you have somebody who truly understands the workings. Putting him there have also enabled the sports to develop right there in the state. This is the third edition of Governor Dewey's wrestling competition. And of course, if you listen to the theme of this year's edition, preparing talent for future, which for me I think is very key. This will be the aim and aspiration of this competition, and not about trying to prepare their mind after their woeful outing at the Paris Olympic Games. So I think the team actually captures the essence of this competition, which is preparing these wrestlers for future competition. And 25 countries, like you said, are there, have indicated have indicated interest to be part and parcel of this one. It clearly tells you the growing influence of wrestling right here in the country. It's going to be an encouraging one if other states as well is doing this kind of thing. Just imagine if we have 10 or 15 states out of the 36, including the Federal Capital Territory, putting up such massive kind of competition so as to unearth new talent that can also do the country proud in future. Let's talk about, let's say, 10 or 15 states doing this kind of similar thing. Then I think if we are heading for any other major international competition out there, out of those 10 or 15 countries that is very active when it has to do with wrestling, we can be rest assured that we can go out there and come back with trophies, lots and lots of trophies, because I think, Bayelsa State have taken the lead, and other states as well need to also key into this angle of development. But I tell you, it's going to be a massive one. Let's hope that the Wrestling Federation as well, they will also send their men on ground to actually watch some of the talent that will come to display their skills and grit in this edition. Just like we earlier said that about 25 states will be part and parcel of this one. If actually the Wrestling Federation have scouting team, this is their duty this time around, to go down there in Bayelsa State, sit and watch, not to wait.
The president is already there, legally.
The president is there, but he's not going to do that alone. Daniel Igali being the president, there's a lot of work on his table.
And that's what the sport commissioner.
Okay, there's a lot of work on his table, so we need some different people entirely that will be set up more like a monitoring team, more like a scouting team that is going to sit down, evaluate the strength, the skills of each wrestlers out there, and that is how they pen down some of those names that have done impressively well out there and pick them for future development. So for me, I think it's a good one for Bayelsa State, and we need to give it to them. This is not the first time they are organizing it. Like we rolled that out there, that this is the 3rd edition, and it is even getting better as the years comes by. The first edition wasn't that massive like the 2nd edition, and this 3rd edition, many states have already indicated interest. About in the 2nd edition, I think it's about 18 states that were able to indicate interest as at the day when it was officially said that they were going to hold. But this time around, just imagine, within less than 48 hours, about 25 states have already indicated interest. That is to tell you the growing influence of wrestling out there in Bayelsa State. So I'm expecting that even the next edition, talking about the 4th edition, will also surpass this 3rd edition.
All right, let's see how it goes. 3rd edition of the Governor Dewey Wrestling Classic, of course, will be coming up next month, and we'll see how that one will go. But let's talk tennis, as Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from the upcoming Paris Masters, possibly marking the end of his 2024 season. A 37-year-old who holds a record of 40 Masters title and 24 Grand Slam title is the defending champion in Paris, but will not compete this year. Although Djokovic is still in contention for the ATP Finals in Turin, currently ranked 6th in the race, several players could surpass him for his sport in the 8-man event. And Djokovic expressed his disappointment on social media, reflecting on the 7 Paris Masters title and expressing hope to return next year. This year also marks the first time since 2017 that Djokovic will finish the season without a Grand Slam title, with Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz claiming the major victories. Michael, what do you make of this season for Novak Djokovic? He didn't win any Grand Slam this season, and his ranking actually dropped, I think, to number 4, and now as it stands, the only thing he did massively was winning the gold medal at the Olympic Games, which has been a title that has eluded him for a very long time. Will you tag this season a successful one for Djokovic?
You can't tag such a season a successful one for Novak Djokovic, because about 7 years down the line, if I'm not mistaken, that this is the first time that he's going all through season without winning a Grand Slam. He was just able to make an impact in the Paris Olympic, where he was able to win one of the elusive trophies that have been missing in his cabinet. That is the only thing that he did this season that you can say that is the only outstanding thing. Away from that, the season has been a very disappointing one. It started with a loss, to Yannick Sinner in the Australian Open, and since then he was still unable to pick that form that we know of Novak Djokovic, continued to struggle. Then again, maybe, just maybe because of his age, now he selects some of the games that he wants to play. Maybe he's trying to manage, his body and strength and all of that, so that at least he stays very much relevant on the court. So that may be. And if you are not consistent in playing all this competition or championship, you will not hit the best of your form. It's more likened to, someone that, does a thing on a routine basis. Every day you are doing this thing, every week you are doing this thing. You are going to gain mastery of your body, compared to someone that maybe once in a while you do that thing. I mean, your body cannot be the same with that person who does it as a routine. So some of these players that have been very active, taking part in all, or in, let me not say all, almost all of the competition over the season, you expect them to at least jump up high in the ranking compared to Novak Djokovic, who is very much selective about some of the games. Then again, you talk about injury. At some point this season, he had 1 or 2 injuries, but then I would not really say that it is the injury setback. I just think that Novak Djokovic is trying to manage his body, and that is why he has not been taking part in some major games out there. And if you are not taking part in some of the major games out there, you cannot win the Grand Slam, you know, because we have other players that are much hungrier, that are much younger, that want to also make an impact. Talk about Carlos Alcaraz, Yannick Sinner. These are players that are very young, and they are willing to play every competition that comes by because they want to make a mark for themselves. They want to make a name for themselves out there. You know, Novak Djokovic has won everything that he needed to be. So there will be no other motivation out there, because what is that thing that is going to derive motivation? Is it playing in the, you know, Grand Slam? Which other motivation? So I think maybe these are some of the reasons why it looks as though Novak Djokovic, you know, has dropped down in the pecking order in terms of the ranking. We know Novak Djokovic, of course, before he dropped down from the world #1, you know how long he was able to stay top in that world #1. So I think this time around, there is no spices again. There is no ginger again. There is no motivation. There is nothing that entices him. I think the only thing that actually motivated him through the during the course of this season was just the Olympic game, and the reason is very simple, that he has not won an Olympic gold medal, and that is why he was able to do everything possible. In fact, he had to skip some games building up to the Olympic, you know, just because he wanted to stay fit for the Paris Olympic game, because he wanted to win the gold medal. And immediately he did that, all they say is history, and that is why, you know, his form has been actually dropped as it is right now. So for me, let's hope that if he can be able to continue to maintain or manage his body and age, because age is a very key factor. You saw some of his peers that are older, 38, you know, retiring, the great Rafael Nadal, you know, just name them, they are retiring, but he's still one among the 4 big names that is still remaining. You know, so I think age is another factor that we may also want to consider. That is why he has, you know, be very selective of the games that he wants to play, and that has really affected his ranking.
Do you see him coming back to the top, maybe next season?
And that will be very difficult. Like I said, age is no longer on his side, and he's very selective of the games that he wants to play, unless he's very serious this time around and take it upon himself and say...
I think he still has a fight, you know, at this point in time. 24 Grand Slam.
Yeah.
He has equaled that record of Mark records. And everyone is looking at the fact that I think he still has that little bit of energy. He can surpass that record. I think that's a record for him to look forward to maybe surpass.
Yeah, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope to see maybe he can be able to surpass that record. But for this season, I do not think you know, we are putting that in, we are factoring that into the equation as it is right now. Maybe for next season, he may want to, you know, surmount that record and be able to place himself, you know, on a different pedestal. But for now, we just wait to see if Rafael Nadal still have what it takes. Like I was saying, I mean, Novak Djokovic. Like I was saying, next season, if possibly he goes back to the closest and discover that indeed, man, I need to surpass this record and, you know, keep fighting hard like we know of Novak Djokovic, just maybe he might also, you know, do well next season. But for this season, I think it is done and dusted for him.
All right, let's see how it goes for Novak Djokovic. We hope he bounce back, you know, come next season. But away from that, let's bring you some fixtures this weekend in the Nigerian Premier Football League, as Katsina United will lock on against Niger Tornadoes. We'll also see Heartland against Remo Stars. Bender Insurance will be in action against Ambia Warriors. Nasara United also lock on against Kano Pillars. Rivers United against Economy Warriors. Plateau United against Sunshine Stars. And Eyimba will be in action against Ikorodu City, while Kwara United will welcome Enugu Rangers. Shooting Stars against Akwa United, and Lobby Stars also will welcome Bayelsa United. One of the interesting encounter, Michael, down there is the game between Rivers United Economy Warriors. Both teams, they've been unbeaten this season. You see Rivers United picking another 3 points this time at home.
Well, going by what we've seen Finidi George and his boys achieve so far this season, we ought to say, yeah, they stand in a better position to get all 3 points. But against an Economy Warrior side that is not doing pretty bad as well so far this season, I think it's going to be a very difficult one, a very close game. It's going
Economy
to be.
Warriors unbeaten, but most of their, unbeaten record are draws.
Yes, and just like Rivers United, they've won more games than the ones that they have drawn. But take a look at the team that have actually lost about 2 games so far this, and that is the private team, talking about Remo Stars. They've lost 2 games, yet they are just 2 points adrift of the league leader that have not lost a game, which is Rivers United. I think Rivers United have 20 points as it is right now. Just 2 points that separate Rivers United that have not lost a game, and the Remo Stars that have lost 2 games. So for me, sometimes when we say unbeaten, it sounds somehow ambiguous. Just like we say that Manchester United is unbeaten in the Europa as it is right now. But you ask yourself, 3 games played, unbeaten, for how many points? Out of 9 points, you are having 3 points. Is that something to boast of? Rivers United, about 7 games or 8 games going right now, unbeaten. Yet, teams that have lost 2 games, it's just 2 points disparity that separate 2 sides. So for me, I think it's not about the unbeaten issue. It's about getting all 3 points, and it's about playing good football and making the fans happy out there and truly show that indeed you have what it takes to challenge for the title this season. Because just few games played, there are lots and lots of games to come, about 30-something games, is still yet to come. So Rivers United just need to start getting all 3 points. Don't wait until you go away and pick a draw and you begin to say, oh, we've remained unbeaten so far. Whereas the teams that have lost, even more than you that have not lost, it's just 2 points that separate you guys. So what is the essence of the unbeaten? So for me, I just pray that this weekend Rivers United can be on their A games to pick all 3 points and not to go unbeaten by going away to pick a draw.
All right, let's see how it goes, of course, for Rivers United this weekend. Keep our eyes, of course, on other fixtures as they unfold as well this weekend. But away from that, the Confederation of African Football has unveiled its much anticipated shortlist for the 2024 Men's Player of the Year award, featuring Nigerian talent Demola Lukman and William Trusekong among the distinguished nominees. However, his post by CAF yesterday on X disclosed that informed striker Victor Boniface and winning title holder Victor Osimhen were notably absent from the final selection. The 10-man shortlist include a strong North African presence with Morocco's defensive powerhouse Akraf Hakimi and Sofiane Rahimi among the nominees, alongside Algeria's Amin Agouri. Ivory Coast's Simon Adingra also features after a stellar club season, while DR Congo's Chancel Mbemba and Guinea's Seho Geresi have earned their places following outstanding performances throughout the year. Completing the list, Burkina Faso's Edmond Tapsoba and South Africa's Ruben Williams, reflecting the breadth of talent across the African continent. Michael, what do you make of the players on the list, talking about the CAF Player of the Year?
I think for me, these are names that expectedly should be there, and they are there. The likes of Simon Adingra, Williams Trusekong, Lukman Ademola. They talk about Guresi, Sefo Fofana, and Ronda Williams of South Africa. These are names that truly deserve to be on the short list out there, because you take a look at their performances in the last season and even in the African Cup of Nations, you would truly say, yeah, they truly deserve to be there. William Trusekong was very vital for Super Eagles, heading into the African Cup of Nations final. Did very well for his club side out there as well. We talk about Solomon Adingra, the Ivorian, Brighton. He was very instrumental into helping Brighton finish in a very respectable position last season in the English Premier League. Did very well for the Ivorian side in the African Cup of Nations. Was very instrumental, you know, into helping them get to the final. And even in the final, he was very unplayable against the Super Eagles side, you know, because he actually tormented and terrorized, you know, Olaina in that wing. So he truly deserved to be there. Gurasi also deserved to be there, because if you take a look at what he did for Dortmund last season, he has also continued in that impressive fashion as well this season as well. So most of the names that I've seen there, I think, are names that deserve to be there. But other thing that we can't fail to talk about right now is some of the notable names that have been excluded, because you know, if you go down to the Twitter right now, I mean, since yesterday night, has been very, very serious debate on the reason why some of the key names has been, omitted. The likes of Chelsea striker talking about Nicola Jackson also tweeted as well, even on his X handle. Victor Boniface as well tweeted on his X handle. Mohamed Salah, then Aubameyang as well. So these are some of the big names. Victor Osimhen, want to say, yeah, maybe the reason that he's not included, he didn't do well for Napoli last season. You know, maybe did his best in the African Cup of Nations, but you know, that alone cannot help him to make the short list out there. But I think for me, it's best known for CAF. But if you take a look at the names that have been shortlisted, you will truly say, yeah, it truly reflected the fact that most of these names out there were very vital in the African Cup of Nations. And of course, you know that the African Cup of Nations as well is a very good template and a yardstick to use and measure the strength, and the contribution of some of these players into lifting this award, because this award is for African Footballer of the Year. And of course, you cannot talk about the African Footballer of the Year, without mentioning the African Cup of Nations. So for me, I think these names that are there truly deserve to be there.
Ademola Lookman, everyone is actually looking at his direction. Does this stand a chance among these players?
Of course, I think he stands tall. That shouldn't be a question or something to debate about. I think they should just give it to him because he has paid his dues. He did pretty well for the Atlanta side under Gasperini. In fact, Gasperini had to bring out the best of Lookman Ademola. This is the Lookman Ademola that we saw, in his early days, and that is why Atlanta had to go get him. He did very, very well for the Atlanta side last season, scoring, that hat-trick in the Europa final wasn't an easy feat. Not just scoring in the final, he was very instrumental building up to the final out there. Scored key goals, came to the African Cup of Nations, did pretty well, scored about 3 goals, had 3 assists. He was very, very instrumental for the Super Eagles getting to the final as well. So this season, it has also continued to blaze on. So I do not see any other player that you will come close to Lookman Ademola in terms of achievement, in terms of consistency, because these are things that we need to properly, articulate. You must talk about consistency, you must talk about achievement, you must talk about your impact in big games, and then again your contribution in the African Cup of Nations. So I think for me, Lookman Ademola have no other competitor, because Achraf Hakimi of Morocco did very well for Paris Saint-Germain last season. But then talk about the African Cup of Nations. Did he have any good impact with the Moroccan side that first got to Ivory Coast, and they were also first to be evicted? So for me, the next man that comes close, I just think that Lookman Ademola is on a world of his own. We should just wait for CAF to just give him the title. It's not about debate.
All right, away from that, Nigeria's AFCON 23 silver medal winning coach Joseph Pesiro has been left out of the Confederation of African Football's Coach of the Year shortlist for 2024. A post yesterday by CAF on X revealed that the Super Eagles, with the 10-man shortlist fixtures and several prominent names from across the continent, including Angola's Pedro Concabs and Burkina Faso's Brahima Toure. The list also include Ivory Coast Emma Faye, who made a significant impact in African football this year. DR Congo Sebastian De Zebre and Egyptian representative Jose Gomez and Marcel Kola have also made the cut. The nomination list is further strengthened by the inclusion of Mozambique Chinquiho Konde, South Africa's Hugo Broos, Equatorial Guinea's Florent Mbege, and Sudan's Kwesi Appiah. Michael, what do you make of it? If Emma Faye, one man who was brought in the middle of the competition, and of course he was able to help them win the African Cup of Nations, could be in this list, why would Jesse pursue who has been the Super Eagles of Nigeria for some time and then took them to the AFCON and took them to the finals, not in this particular list?
It's a question mark that I think CAF need to answer that very question. I'm not here to answer that question because CAF knows the reason.
Based on your opinion, based on your analysis, based on your own, take a look at how things have been. Is it that Jesse Pesiro was not good enough, in terms of managing the Super Eagles? Because, I know at that time a lot of person complained of his tactics, not playing beautiful football, and all of that. Could that also be one thing that have hindered him in making this list?
Just maybe, and especially his input in the final. There are some technical angles to it. Playing in the finals as well also gives you that leverage if you can be able to, plot out a tactical masterclass to outweigh your opponent. And in the final, we did not see that. Emerson Faye came from nowhere to rescue the drowning Ivorians that were almost eliminated in the group stage. In fact, their coach got sacked even before their last group game out there. And this is how this man was drafted in. He came there, was able to redeem the image of the Ivorians, taking them to the final, not just taking them to the final, winning the final against Joseph Pisero's side that have been there and did not make any good impact, especially in the final. So I think this is the reason why he wasn't included. But for me, to talk about this award, who truly deserve it, I think, Hugo Broos of South Africa, I think for me, going by the evaluation assessment of his team out there, don't forget the South African, they did pretty well as well, but it was Super Eagles that actually knocked them out. Fortunately, because they played better and had better chances than us. We need to, in fact, crown Stanley Nwabali another chief, because without him, maybe South Africa should have eliminated the Super Eagles in that African Cup of Nations. And crops of their players are Africa-based. They are playing in South African leagues. There are just two clubs that produce the squad of the South Africans, and we are talking about the African Cup of Nations. And if we truly want to reflect the face of Africa, judging by the name tag African Cup of Nations, for a team that brought out about 99.9% of their squad from the African League, then I think they need to be given some flowers out there. They did not just bring in teams or names that is based or player based in Africa, but they were able to play some beautiful football, got the result, positive result, made a good impact out there. So judging by that, I think Hugo Broos truly deserves this award. Maybe Emerson Faye will come second.
All right, let's quickly take a trip down to Europe as we take a look at some fixtures this weekend in the Premier League, as Leicester City will lock horns against Nottingham Forest. We'll see as well Aston Villa against Bournemouth, Brentford against Ipswich Town, Brighton and Hove Albion against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Manchester City will lock horns against Southampton, Everton against Fulham, and Chelsea against Newcastle United. We'll also see Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham United will be national against Manchester United, and Arsenal will lock horns against Liverpool. One of the exciting fixtures this weekend. Michael, Arsenal against Liverpool, a must-watch game for football fans, all over the world to see. Michael, what do you make of that encounter? Arsenal in a very dicey position, taking a look at it, especially their last outing in the Premier League. What do you make of it this time for them this weekend?
It's going to be a very dicey game, a very interesting one. Keenly contested encounter, I expect it to be. Maybe this time around, Liverpool might, drown Arsenal inside their pool. Whereas Arsenal, on the other hand, will be hoping to go to their armories and bring out some of the dangerous weapons that they can use to survive, maybe swim out of that pool that Liverpool will be hoping to drown them. But one thing is very certain, that it's going to be an interesting game. But for Arsenal, it may have some worry because some of their key players is out injured or are out injured. The likes of Martin Odegaard, not available. Bukayo Saka, their key man as well, not available. Calafiori out injured. So this might affect the setup of Arsenal team come this weekend against a very dogged Liverpool that have been very good under their new man, talking about Ancelotti. I think they've been flying very high so far this season. But judging by the last display against Chelsea, talking about Liverpool-Chelsea last weekend, if you want to judge by that, you may say that Arsenal have some chances of going out there and getting all 3 points, because Chelsea actually outplayed Liverpool at their own home, last weekend. Ball possession, shot on target, passes completed. Chelsea were the better of Liverpool, but then what matters is who won the game. At the end of it all, Liverpool went home with all 3 points. So, and Arsenal is a very coordinated team that like knocking the ball around. So if Chelsea could have much of the possession against Liverpool, then how much more Arsenal that like to hold possession on their own as well. So it might prove to be another key factor that can make the difference if Arsenal, after holding on to possession, and when they have 1 or 2 chances converted, that may do the job. But then it's going to be a very difficult one, like I said earlier, as against a high-flying Liverpool. So just keep our fingers crossed, hoping to see a very mouth-watering game this weekend.
We'll look forward to see how this one, of course, will pan out, and we hope that, Arsenal will try most of the can, to get a favorable result this weekend. Promises to be an exciting weekend in the English Premier League, and we'll see who get this one, as it's there. A lot of injury worries, for Arsenal Football Club. Can they continue with the absence of their key players? It's something that we have to take a look at this point. But in the Spanish La Liga, we'll see Espanyol against Sevilla, and also Real Valladolid against Villarreal, Rayo Vallecano against Alaves, Las Palmas against Girona, and Real Madrid will lock on against Barcelona. We'll see Leganés against Celta Vigo, Getafe against Valencia, Real Betis against Atletico Madrid, and we'll see Real Sociedad against Osasuna. Michael, the El Clasico comes up as well this weekend. I don't know what you make of it this time. Both teams are firing. Real Madrid and Barcelona, so they had an impressive outing in the UEFA
of their play come this weekend against the Catalans, talking about Barcelona that is also firing. In fact, most of the backup players have actually picked the form of their life. Talk about Rafinha doing pretty well, Diami Lamar, Robert Lewandowski. Thank God they also have their Madrid had a better of them, and this could be a title decider, because the El Clasico, sometimes it's always a very tight, keenly contested, and it's a title decider. So I'm actually tipping Barcelona to get all 3 points against Madrid this weekend.
All right, let's see how it goes. Of course, look forward to see how the fixtures, of course, will go down this weekend. But at this point, we have to call it a wrap because our time is up. Tomorrow we'll be back as well to take you through the beautiful water sports down here on Atlantic Television Network. Special thanks to Michael for doing justice on the show this evening. Don't forget, peace and unity always the pathways to progress. Can go down to our different social media handles. The conversation continues right there. My name is Kingsley Manuel. Thanks for watching.